Rev up your engines!
Well, you've been following all this stuff about electric cars, hybrid cars, and it looks like people are much more in love with hybrid cars because there's no range anxiety. Toyota led the stuff with it. Now, of course, all the American companies are trying to catch up. So what does Ford do? Ford's 2024 Ford Maverick hybrid gets another price bump. Ford's idea is, well, yeah, hybrids are going to make us money. Let's raise the price on them. Instead of, hey, let's sell a whole bunch of them, get people happy, they just raise the price because, oh, they're popular now. They don't think long term. The 2022 Maverick hybrid was $21,499. The base one now is $27,265, which is $5,775 more in 2 years. Out of a vehicle that's around $20,000 to begin with. That's a big jump, right? And the hilarious thing is, if you want to buy the fancy ones, the new 2025 Tremor, their fancy one, it's $7,010 more than in 2024. So the Tremor one, they're raising an additional $7,000. I guess they're popular. They don't think in terms of keeping their audience, keeping their customers satisfied. Oh, those are popular. Okay, let's jack the price this year, another $7,000. They think, well, people are buying them, so let's keep raising the price. You know what you're going to do? You're going to chase your audience away. Bad enough that Ford's got all these problems with quality control, bad quality control. But now the one thing that people like, the Maverick Hybrid, they keep jacking the price up. It's just, they don't care about long term. They're just thinking short term. And that's a problem with a lot of these American companies. They whine about, oh, the Japanese, the Chinese, oh, they're undercutting us. They had plans that go for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. The Americans are thinking like 3 weeks ahead of time, or the next stock price, the next quarterly stock price. That's all they're worried about. And it's showing. Hey, they got something that people like. What do? They raise the price so they can make more money. Ha! It's going to bite him in the rear end, you watch. A Dog 97 says, I got a V8 5.4 liter Triton Ford. Are these mechanic scams common? I took mine in. He said, oh, you need a new engine. It's ticking. Finally, I got an honest mechanic. He said the tick was a passenger side exhaust leaking, and then he fixed it. It has 184,000 miles and runs fine. I wonder how many other people were cheated by mechanics with these 5.4 liter engines just with an exhaust leak. Well, probably quite a few. I've seen so many dishonest mechanics make your head spin. Now, it's a combination of two things. Well, three things. Greed, dishonesty, but sometimes stupidity. Sometimes they don't even know themselves. They're just crappy mechanics. It's so easy to see if you got an exhaust leak. If you want to see if a car is an exhaust leak, we mechanics, all we do is we put a smoke machine in the tailpipe of the car. You get this cone that fits in and you put the smoke machine pipe. That blows smoke into the exhaust system. Then, if it was your exhaust leaking, smoke would come out of the exhaust right there at the manifold. Simple thing to do. Anybody can do it. Or if you start it up, you hear a noise. If you put your hand near it, you'll feel the hot gas coming out of the noise. And you'll know it needs the gasket replaced on the exhaust manifold, right? But unfortunately, these days, a lot of people know absolutely nothing about cars. And dishonest mechanics will take advantage of them because they're greedy. They want to make a lot of money. And they really don't care. They have no ethics anymore. Unfortunately, in our society today, I see that more and more. People's word means nothing. They'll tell you one thing, they don't show up, they don't care, and the level of ethicalness with people is declining rapidly. Well, I made money on a deal, I don't care if it screwed somebody over. That's how a lot of people think these days. Here's one I can't help but laugh at. Waymo, the self-driving car company, they're in talks with Hyundai Motors to produce self-driving taxis. Okay, now there's a good one. Everybody knows Hyundai, the Korean cars have problems and break down. Maybe they can go with Waymo and they make self-driving cars that can also fix themselves when they break. Because, of course, if they were making them with Hyundai, the things would probably break down all the time, too. I'm just thinking, now here's two bad companies getting together. What could come of it? Something good? No, probably not. Look at all the problems Hyundai's had with their engines, transmissions, right? And Hyundai and Kia are pretty much the same company. The cars that didn't have immobilizers, people were stealing them. Maybe they'll make self-driving cars that people will steal then. Don't think if somebody seriously made thousands and thousands of self-driving cars, those computer hacker boys, the first thing they're going to do is figure out how to steal them and drive them all over the place just for kicks. That's how those computer nerds are. It's their big thrills, right? So yet another problem could come arise if Waymo and Hyundai get together and make self-driving cars. Who knows? I just think the whole thing is crazy. Why did they get this thing into making self-driving cars? Driving Uber, Lyft, taxi companies. It gives people jobs, right? You can talk to people, come to a city, learn a little bit about talking to the people. These companies get more and more carried away with this crazy robotic nonsense that doesn't work. Who knows? Somebody's invested money in it, and they just keep throwing good money after bad. Will O'Connor says, my tire pressure light is staying on. And he says, Scotty, I got an 05 Highlander, 227,000 miles. The tire pressure light comes on even though all four tires are inflated, including the spare. What could cause it? Odds are your sensors are going out. Here's how it works. You got 227,000 miles. You got a 19-year-old car. Each tire has a valve stem. Inside it is a sending unit that sends the tire pressure to the car's computer. Those sensors have to be powered, and they're powered by batteries. The batteries just flat wear out over time. Then you got to replace the whole assembly. Take the tire apart, put a new one in, reprogram the system. Now, if you want to see what's actually wrong, any mechanic like myself, we have high-level scan tools. We'll walk up to your car, turn it on, and we can check each one. And you'll probably find out that one or more of the sensors aren't working anymore. Now, there's other things that go wrong too. The module can go bad. Other things, fuses can blow. But normally it just means that the battery is gone out. And I've got a real fancy machine for checking the TPMS sensor, the tire pressure monitoring sensors in the tires, where I just walk up to them and my machine says what percentage battery they have left. And since it's so old, maybe they're all gone, or maybe one or two or three of them are gone. The other one's only got 10% left. It's an expensive endeavor replacing them all. My advice is, if you don't want to spend a bunch of money, just get a tire pressure gauge and check it yourself. Love Car says, how do I change my transmission fluid? I got a RAV4. How do I change the fluid? Okay, you can watch my videos. I show people how to do it. What it comes down to is, as long as you don't have a leak, the transmission's dry and no fluid's leaking out, it means it's full. So there's a drain plug. You take the drain plug out, then you get, like, I think it's a 6mm hex wrench. You stick it inside that hole, and then when you unscrew that, a plug comes out and more fluid comes out. Then you find where the add plug is, unscrew it, and pump that same amount of fluid in. Now, get the Toyota fluid. Toyota doesn't make the fluid, but whoever makes it for them has certain additives, and when you do drain the fluid, more than 2/3 of it is still in the transmission and the torque converter and stuff, so you're only diluting it, so that's why you got to use the original stuff, so it's all the same fluid. It's not that hard to do. If you Google it, you'll see those videos out there on YouTube that'll show you exactly how to do it. It's not that hard to do. You just have to have a little pump to pump the new stuff in, because where the add hole is, it's kind of in a weird place. You got to have a pump with a plastic hose you can stick in and pump it. Well, here's some transportation news that is not surprising. If you wonder what the worst major airport in the U.S. is this year, well, it's the same one as last year. And guess where it is? It's in Jersey. It's in New Jersey. Newark's Liberty International Airport, also known as EWR, no one knows why, but that's what they call it on your computer, is in the bottom of rankings for just about everything, and all told, it is the worst one again. It was last year too. Interesting enough, second was the Toronto airport in Toronto. And Toronto airport is a mess. I mean, they don't have signs. You can't tell where you're going, what you're doing, but I have been to the Newark airport a few times, and I do have to say, it is one of the crappiest airports I have ever been in. The Wi-Fi even stunk. It didn't hardly work at all the last time I was there. I always make, if I'm traveling somewhere, I make a point of, is it stopping in Jersey? Yes. No, I'm not going there. I'll try another plane company. I'll find a different way to fly. I'm not going through Jersey. They're always backed up. I almost got stuck there once because there was a little snow and they couldn't defrost the engines correctly and everything's running loose all over the place. I got on the last plane to get out before they shut the airport down. So, yes, I agree entirely with this stat. I think the New Jersey airport is the worst airport in the United States. I've been to lots of them, and I do have to say, it is probably the worst one I have ever been to. Well, Bill Gates is putting his money where his mouth is. He's bringing the most advanced nuclear facility in the world to a small city of only 2,000 people, and it's in Wyoming. Good place to test it out. Something goes wrong. Aren't that many people in Wyoming, right? These are smaller nuke plants. The problem with old-style ones is they cost a fortune. To give you an example, Georgia's plant Vogtle, which just expanded from 2 to 4 reactors, costs $35 billion to upgrade. Bill Gates' TerraPower thing that he's trying to Wyoming is going to cost $4 billion of it. Half of it's funded by the Department of Energy, and Bill's coming up with the other half. If they can actually make it to that price and it works, it'll be a game changer. They're building on an old coal plant site. Now, that's what's probably going to happen, because here in Tennessee, there's one of the biggest coal plants in the United States. It's on the Cumberland River, and they're going to put it out of operation in a few years and replace it with a natural gas dual system where there's natural gas and then extra heat that's used over is going to make a steam turbine, so it's going to generate the electricity twice. But they admit they've got all these acreage, thousands of acres of land, and they got a lot of space. They can build a nuke plant there if they want. So it only makes sense to make the plant where the other plant is, because number one, generally they're near supply of water, often rivers, lakes, so they got that going for them. And I mean, hey, if Bill gets us going, that could be the solution to a lot of our problems. Now, it's going to take a while, because they said, at best, it might be up and running by 2030. That's 6 years from now. We know how that stuff goes. Usually it takes longer. But who knows? With Bill and his money, maybe it'll be up by 2030. And if it's up and running, it's a game changer. Then they can stop all this crap about windmills and solar panels, and they can go to this new nuke power system. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.